Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse number 5. If someone can share. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Nasta Praeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. Hari Om Tatsat. 6.5. So, Mr. Prabhu, we can share the screen of this verse.
Yeah, sharing. Just a minute.
Uddharet Atmana Atmanam Na Atmanam Avasadayet Atmaiva hi Atmano Bandho Atmaiva Ripuratmanaha. Uddharet Atmana Atmanam Na Atmanam Avasadayet Atmaiva hi Atmano Bandhur Atmaiva Ripuratmanaha. Uddharet Atmana Atmanam Na Atmanam Avasadayet Atmaiva hi Atmano Bandho Atmaiva Ripuratmanaha. Synonyms. Uddharet, one must deliver. Atmana, by the mind. Atmanam, the conditioned soul. Na, never. Atmanam, the conditioned soul. Avasadayet, put into degradation. Atma, mind. Eva, certainly. He, indeed. Atmanaha, of the conditioned soul. Bandhu, friend. Atma, mind. Eva, certainly. Ripuhu, enemy. Atmanaha, of the conditioned soul. Translation by Jivange Sesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. Repeat. One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. Purport. The word Atma denotes body, mind and soul. Depending upon different circumstances, in the yoga system, the mind and the conditioned soul are especially important. Since the mind is the central point of yoga practice, Atma refers here to the mind. The purpose of the yoga system is to control the mind and to draw it away from the attachment to sense objects. It is stressed herein that the mind must be so trained that it can deliver the conditioned soul from the mire of nescience. In material existence, one is subjected to the influence of the mind and the senses. In fact, the pure soul is entangled in the material world because the mind is involved with the false ego, which desires to lord it over material nature. Therefore, the mind should be trained so that it will not be attracted by the glitter of material nature, and in this way, the conditioned soul may be saved. One should not degrade oneself by attention to sense objects. The more one is attracted by sense objects, the more one becomes entangled in material existence. The best way to disentangle oneself is to always engage the mind in Krishna consciousness. The word he is used for emphasizing this point, that is, one must do this. It is also said, Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoh bandhaya vishayasango muktai nirvishayam manah. For man, mind is the cause of the bondage, mind is the cause of liberation. Mind absorbed in sense objects is the cause of bondage, and mind detached from sense objects is the cause of liberation. Amrita Bindu Upanishad 2. Therefore, the mind which is always engaged in Krishna consciousness is the cause of supreme liberation. Try to understand this verse. Om Ajnanati Vrandasya Gnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmeditam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Krupatamaham Vande Sri Gurum Devatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Iswaram Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Krupa Sindhubhyayevacha Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam. Shri Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. So, here Lord Krishna is speaking in this 6th chapter of Dhyana Yoga because Arjuna is asking any questions here? No, Arjuna is not asking questions, but Supreme Lord Sri Krishna is speaking directly, if you see. So, this is, I think in the context, let's understand this chapter and first the context, why Krishna is speaking, the connection of this chapter. And the 5th chapter, Bhagavad Gita, Action and Karma Yoga, Action and Krishna Consciousness, we see that Arjuna is asking the question in the beginning. You have said to renounce first and then you said work in devotion. So which one you want me to do? So that's how the 5th chapter starts. Then Supreme Lord Sri Krishna started explaining explaining the details. Then at the end, just before concluding with the Bhoktaram Ignatapa Sarvaloka Maheswaram Surudam Sarvabhutaram Atmamam Shantam Uchyate, he has given a glimpse of this Ashtanga Yoga, process of Ashtanga Yoga, and 27 and 28, where he is talking about Sparsan Krutva Bahir Bahyancha. So shutting out all external sense objects and then keeping eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending inward and outward breaths within this nostrils and controlling the mind and senses and intelligence. So this is what Krishna is speaking in the 5th chapter, almost one verse before ending. So that's why this is the connection. He wants to expand that. So far he is explaining, because another point is also Nishkama Karma Yoga. Krishna is speaking this. Be detached from the results in this chapter of 5th chapter. Now the living entity, conditioned soul, can perform the Ashtanga Yoga or Dhyana Yoga, Hatha Yoga, various names are there. So they can perform after they coming to the Nishkama Karma Yoga, preferably. But there are those who are not even at that stage. They are at the beginning stage, which Krishna is talking about, the 3rd verse or 4th verse, and later on also throughout this chapter of 6th chapter. So that's why Krishna is explaining now. So since he has talked about in very brief in the 27 and 28, shutting out all the external sense objects, especially the sense objects, he is talking about the Jnanendriyas, which is nothing but the eyes, nostrils, ears, tongue and skin. And then its sense objects are sound, touch, form, smell and taste. So touch and taste. These 5 sense objects. So the senses and sense objects, there should be detachment. They should be used for the engaging in the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna and Guru's service. So that's what Krishna is speaking here. Through the Dhyana Yoga or meditation or Ashtanga Yoga process. So that's why that is the connection from the 5th chapter to sixth chapter. That's why Krishna is bringing and explaining, so that even though he is not instructing Arjuna to follow, at the end of the sixth chapter also we see that. So after explaining the whole thing, Krishna is emphasizing ultimate point. It is very difficult, impossible to do this in Kali Yuga. So the topmost, the easiest is the bhakti, process of bhakti. Yoginam sarvesham madgatena antaratma sraddhavan vajteyo mada. That is the topmost one who is thinking of me always with faith and love. 3 points Krishna is concluding with this chapter, even though Krishna is emphasizing much in great detail of the Ashtanga Yoga process. But in the last section, last verse, especially 6.47, which brings up about the bhakti, so that's how the 7th chapter, then he can emphasize completely, go in detail about the bhakti, because those are the 3 points are important. One must meditate, one must think of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. Yoginam madgatenam paratma. That means mind must be engaged. In this verse also Prabhupada is emphasizing that mind must be constantly engaged in the thinking of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, especially the lotus feet. We will discuss that more. Then also with how it should be done with love, Shraddha, with faith and also love. Bhajata. Bhajata means it is done with love, not in impersonal way. Personal way means always with love and affection and sensitivity must be there. So this is the very full stress Krishna is giving us specifically. And then so the 7th chapter Krishna is speaking further about that one who comes to that point of asakti. So maya asakta manah, the mind must come to that, especially mind should be attached to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, especially at the asakti stage. Then he can give up he can detach from the work completely, the varnashrama system. But until that point, he should be working, especially varnashrama system. At least he must come to the nishtha, ruchi and asakti, not before that. He shouldn't artificially give up his work, give up his family and all artificially. So that's what Krishna is stressing. Now coming back to the 6th chapter, so the sections quickly will run through it. So 6th chapter has 6 sections. Sometimes it is also called 5 sections only. 1 to 9 is called the yoga ladder or yoga stage, from yoga ruksha to yoga ruda stage, or it are also divided sometimes 2 ways, 6.1 to 6.4, advancing in yoga through work in detached work, nishkam karma yoga basically. Then 5 to 9 is yoga ruda stage, giving up work. Then the 10 to 32 is talking about Ashtanga Yoga sadhana, how to perform the Ashtanga Yoga from these 8 stages. So by the Aruda Muni, one who to come to that Aruda stage, highest stage, or it can be also said as further stages in practice of Ashtanga Yoga. Then 33 to 36 is the necessity of controlling the turbulent mind. And then 37 to 45 is the destination of unsuccessful yogi. And then 46 to 47 is the topmost yogi. So in this way, the 6 sections are there. Now we are in the first section, 1 to 9. Or if you take that as 2 divisions, then it will be second section, yoga roda stage. So somebody is calling, keep calling 3 times. Oh. So anyway, verse number 5, here Krishna is speaking. Krishna is speaking clearly. First of all, Uddared Atman Atmanam, na Atmanam Avasadayet, Atmayo hi Atmano Bandhu, Atmaiva Ripura Atman. So many times he is repeating Atma, means mind, body and soul, especially mind he is talking about. And then he is also talking about the conditioned soul. So these are the 2 aspects. One is one Atma is talking about the conditioned soul, the other Atma is talking about the mind. And almost both are repeated throughout this verse. The first point Krishna is mentioning is one must deliver. One must deliver the mind. One must deliver this conditioned soul must deliver or divert the mind from the material sense objects to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. So sense objects, divert his mind from the material to spiritual. How do you do that? Just like a regular example we see, almost regular basis we do. So in order to deliver anything, so if you want to deliver a package, what you will do? You'll go through a different carriers, authorized carriers, whether it's FedEx or UPS or USPS or DHL, whatever, authorized carriers. There are ways who are not so authorized, unauthorized also, but generally we use authorized carriers. We try to send them, and then they have prohibitions and restrictions: what to be sent, what not, what you cannot send through that carrier, the package or goods. And then you send it. Sometimes you may hide or somehow you may be able to send without getting it scanned or getting it caught. Not some restricted items also. So same way, so if you want to deliver, if you living entity wants to be delivered or divert his mind from material and to bring it to the spiritual, transcend his modes, then he must follow the same thing as through a authorized bona fide sampradaya, which is like these authorized carriers. There are various sampradaya, 4 bona fide sampradaya, Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya sampradaya in ISKCON. There are 4 Vaishnava bona fide sampradayas, Sri Sampradaya, Ramanujacharya, then we have from Madhvacharya, Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya sampradaya, then we have Kumara, 4 Kumaras, Kumara sampradaya, Nimbarka Swami, Vishnu Swami. Then you have Rudra sampradaya, which is Vishnu Swami, yes. That is from Lord Shiva, which is also Vallabhacharya is there. So these are the 4 bona fide sampradaya, just like the authorized carriers. We must go through these authorized bona fide sampradaya, vihinaste, mantraste, vipalamat. If you receive any mantra, people may receive, come have a big program and just do initiation and give them mantra publicly. But it's not going to result in any transformation whatsoever. So that way we must go through the bona fide acharya, bona fide sampradaya, and then there are regulative principles, there are regulations, because otherwise mind cannot be studied, mind cannot be fixed up if you don't have regulative principles. So that's why there are 4 regulative principles in authorized bona fide sampradaya. Yes, there are processes, just like I mentioned, you can send through unauthorized carriers also, there are many. So then you may receive, even sometimes when you, at least I lost even when I send with even priority mail also with USPS, sometimes I lost some ISKCON itself, they sent some gifts and I lost, I didn't even receive it. So even priority mail, there is no tracking. So this also can happen. But this is in the material sense, so that means you can see there are some gaps. But in the spiritual sense, there should be restrictions, and there are same way the 4 regulative principles must be followed very clearly, strictly. And then only you can fix, you can attain, you can deliver yourself from the mind, intelligence, false ego. Especially the mind and intelligence especially is mainly in a distressed condition or conditioned state because of the false ego. The same thing Chaitanya Charitamrita also going in great detail at the end, the 8 verses, the 6 Ashtakam prayers also, Mahaprabhu is emphasizing much more. The biggest problem is everywhere sense gratification only. Even as we advance also, that must be reduced to the nil. Even when we do in devotional service also, there is some kind of sense gratification. Means we do, whether it's deity worship, chanting the holy name, or worshipping the Lord, or serving prasadam, or cooking, all this, there is some element, some percentage of some sense enjoyment. Means thinking that, so what I like, what it should please me. So rather completely it should be pleasing spiritual master and the Supreme Lord and the founder Acharya and devotees. Not so much about whether it will please me or not, it will satisfy me or not. It's not about, as His Grace Madhavananda Prabhu has mentioned. Darshan means it is not for your sense gratification. It is for the Lord's pleasure, it is for the Guru's pleasure. Same thing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is speaking in 20th verse, 20th chapter of Antilila, all about this only. 8 verses only we know, but there is a whole chapter of almost 100 plus verses. Mahaprabhu is speaking much more in length about this point only. Specifically, how to come to that stage of reducing this sense gratification to the highest extent, that means there will be zero sense gratification for us. Everything must be, that's why that is at the highest stage of Srimad Radharani, Mahabhava stage, highest stage, which living entity will not have that stage, but where she is never thinking about her own satisfaction. Whatever you may do, you may trample me, you may pull me down, you may do whatever you do, but all 24/7, let me always serve you, let me always try to serve you, try to please you. That is our mood, that is the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood. So that is the highest level. So, but in our stage, we may not be at that level, but that is at least to know what is that when we say mind and intelligence, which is covered by false ego. That's why we are here in this material world. Otherwise, mind is generated from mode of goodness. When the false ego, the ego in touch with mode of goodness, not Visuddha Sattva, mode of goodness, which means still some tinge of material quality is there, some tinge of passion and ignorance, then the mind is generated. When it is mixed with passion, then the intelligence is generated. So in that way, if it is in goodness, mind is generally stable, but it's not so because of that false ego. There's still, that means even at the stage of goodness, we're still conditioned with knowledge and happiness. As we are discussing this sense enjoyment, happiness for me, not happiness for the Lord. And there are different degrees of it. So that is at least you understand. So you understand this deliver, Uddare, Krishna is speaking here. If you want to be delivered, one must deliver. Otherwise, you will be, as Krishna is speaking, the second point. Now, Atmanam avasadayet, with the help of his mind, should not degrade himself. If you don't deliver, what will happen? Then it will degrade. That's why if you are not constantly in sadhu and shastra and guru's association, if you are not constantly chanting the holy name of the Lord, if you are not regularly worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord by offering tulsi leaves every day, worshipping the Tulsi Maharani and seeing the Tulsi Maharani, so then it is very difficult. Mind will not, there is no possibility to progress or fix the mind, stable the mind. Mind will run it because that is the quality or characteristics of the mind, accepting and rejecting, sankalpa, vikalpa. That is the duty of the mind. So there are 5 kinds of mind which Patanjali Yoga Sutra, as per Patanjali, Vyasdev is writing in Yoga Sutra, first sutra, where he is defining these 5 kinds of mind, which is the first one, the Kshipta mind, which is in passion, like a monkey, always running around. So it is not stable. So much passion, so much desire. That is it is a vritti, means so much karma vasanas are there from the past life and this life. So that's why we must know that how to use our free will carefully. Yes, whatever destiny is already based on the last life, something balance is being given. But how you use it, the free will is still there. How you use it. If you don't use it carefully, then future will be it can be even worse than what we had before. So that's why it is up to us how we want to use free will. So in a good way or negative way. So the first one is the Kshipta mind, which is the monkey mind. So passion, more in a passion state. Then the second stage is Vikshipta mind. The second stage is Muda, which is tamas, ignorance mind, which is like the donkey, the lazy mind. Sometimes our mind does this also. We don't want to do any work. We don't want to do any service. We want to relax. We want to be, procrastinate and do things. We'll do it later after a few days or a few hours. So this is especially when it comes to work, we generally don't do. Especially if it is critical work or manager or somebody is watching, we need to deliver. Then we are very careful. But since nobody is watching, nobody is guiding, that's why there is a need of Siksha Guru, that's why there is a need of association or devotee. You must be always, somebody must be, checking us, somebody should be, instructing us, guiding us, praying for us. So all this must be there so that we are in protection, constant protection. Otherwise we will be very vulnerable. So our mind will be always flickering only. So mind will not come to the stable state. Always think so many things. Let me go here, let me go there. Constant, because it needs attention. Mind needs attention. So that's why if it is in the association, protection and prayers, all these things are there, then obviously it will be more stable than the other way, otherwise. So the Kshipta mind, passion, and then Vikshipta mind, the Muda mind, which is ass, and then the Vikshipta mind is like a butterfly, it's like a partial focus. Sometimes goodness, sometimes passion, sometimes ignorance. This is the third stage. Then the fourth stage, one who is coming to the control, he understood. So these various modes, how it is controlling him, dragging him away, then that is Ekagra stage. He is trying to follow some regulated process, Yukta Ahara Viharas, Yukta Chetusu Karmas, Swapna Avabodhasya. So controlling his eating, sleeping, mating, defending, all those, some regulated process. So then he will come to this stage of Ekagra. When he further acts, further practices, that's why later on in this chapter, when Arjuna is asking, so Krishna is mentioning how is it? It's very difficult to control, obviously. Then how is it possible? Then Krishna is mentioning Abhyasa Yoga Yuktena Chetasana. So by Vairagya Drushyate. So basically practice, by practice, then gradually you will be able to become detached. Internal detachment can happen. If you don't practice, then there is no way. That's why the regulated principles are there. So that's why we can see. And Prabhupada is also giving the example, mind is like a driver. So just like you are sitting in a passenger car, you are in a car, in a taxi. So if the driver is following our direction, then you are okay, get me to the ISKCON of Central New Jersey temple. Then if he takes it, then that means mind is our friend. If he takes away, if he does, sometimes it happens in New York, in Bombay, in few places, they want to cheat people, they want to do whatever they like. There are people like that. So then they will not listen to you. You said this is where you need to go. Either they will make you run around for many hours, they will get so that they can pay more, and then finally they will put you in destination. Sometimes that also may not happen. So that also can happen. So that's why mind can be a friend, mind can be enemy. That means mind is the driver, the passenger is the soul, the body is the car, the chariot or the car. So that's why the mind should be in our control. So that the driver, we should be that way. We should be very careful where the mind should go. So how the mind should be engaged. So that's why in Sukadev, Kapila, Lord Kapila is also mentioning, giving the example of how Lord Shiva himself also is meditating. Who is he meditating? He is carrying the water of Ganga on his head, which is touched came from the toenails of the Supreme Lord, lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So Lord Shiva himself is meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord. One way to fix our mind, come to that Niruda stage. From Ekagra, Niruda is after practicing for many days and months and years, then we will come to this Niruda stage, the fifth stage of the mind. So how one can, even as we engage in bhakti process of devotional service, how we can fix the mind is one way to do that is Lord Kapila is mentioning. Yes, Saucha Nisrishta Sarit Pravara Vudakena Tirdena Modni Adikrutena Siva Sivo Abhut Dhyatur Manas Samala Shaila Nisrishta Vajram Jaye Chiram. Yeah, this is the last line is important. Jaye, that means meditate. Chiram, for long time. Bhagavatas, that is Supreme Person. Charanaravindam. So that's why we have this Vande Guru Sri Charanaravindam. So the 6 Goswami, that's why we have been prescribed, we have been told to chant 3 times, morning, afternoon, evening, Samsaradava prayers, where what Guru does, what is his activities. Same thing with 6 Goswami Ashtaka. Throughout the year, sometimes we chant the Shadgoja Ashtaka, sometimes we chant 6 Ashtakam after the chanting or after the Tulsi Marani prayers we do when we attend Mangalarti in temple. Then you will know that 6 Goswami Ashtaka also, where it is mentioned taking the shelter of the lotus feet of spiritual. I will just quickly run through that also, where in Raghunathadas Gosvami is explaining in the manah Siksa, very deep subject. I'll just glimpse through it. First few verses is talking about, at least it will help us. Last verses are very deep. That is not for us. That is at the highest level, one who is in Ragatmika stage. Raganuga stage. We are not at that level. But here it is clearly mentioned, Jyaye Chiram Bhagavatas Charanarvindam. The blessed Lord Shiva becomes all the more blessed by bearing on his head the holy water of Ganga, which has its source, the water that washed the Lord's lotus feet. Lord's feet act like a thunderbolt, hurled to shatter the mountain of sin, stored in the mud of the meditating devotee. One should therefore meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord for a long time. So that is very important. So that's the same thing which Prabhupada is mentioning. Also in other places, Srimad Bhagavatam, we see that Ambarish Maharaj story, how he himself used all his limbs of the body, everything used. He engaged in nine processes of bhakti, Navavida bhakti. So how is Savai manah Krishna Padarvindayor, especially his mind is engaged always meditating on the Lord. That's why we should, when we take darshan also, we should take darshan from the lotus feet of the Lord. That is most important. Lotus feet of spiritual master. So when we offer our obeisances to the spiritual master, especially founder Acharya, when we enter in temple also, we should worship the lotus feet. We should touch the lotus feet. We should, especially Prabhupada is very, very compassionate. So generally his disciples told, don't. They are restricting others not to touch, but Prabhupada allowed others to touch his feet, because this is in India, when sadhu comes, generally this is the general process. They allow to touch the lotus feet. So that, because that means they are ready to take karma. Prabhupada mentioned, so I am ready to take other sufferings, because Prabhupada is so merciful. He is carrying the potency, mercy of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. So it's very important to meditate on the lotus feet of spiritual master and the Supreme Lord every day, when we wake up, when we sleep, so that we can fix our mind. So quickly, Raghunathadas Gosvami is further emphasizing how the mind can be stable. He is giving instruction to the mind. There are 12 verses. First few of them very important. First thing he is mentioning is, one must pray sincerely to the Lord, especially to fully surrender to Guru, and surrender to Vrajadham, Vrindavan Dham, and the residents of Vraja, and all the devotees of the Supreme Lord. Not only Brahma Madhav Gaudiya Sampradaya, but all the devotees of all the bona fide Sampradaya, and all Brahmanas, because they are the dearmost. Namo Maha Brahmanya Deva we chant. So all Brahmanas also, and the holy name, and the lordships, Shri Radha Shyam Sundar, Shri Jagannath Baldev, Shri Gauranathai. So that is the first and foremost point he is telling. So without any mental reservations. This also we see from Daksha cursing Lord Shiva's instruction. Also there, Lord Brahma said, you all did so much sacrifice, but you neglected, you offended the lotus feet of the Lord Shiva. Now how you can think that you are going to be happy by offending such a great personality? You don't know his position. Neither myself nor all of you put together. You cannot do anything to Lord Shiva. You don't know his glories, you don't know his position. If he wants, he can annihilate all of us. We are nothing in front of you. So his position is much higher than us. Lord Brahma is teaching them. So even now also, for your offenses, if you want to get rid of your offenses, we all must go to Lord Shiva, and then without any mental reservations, with your fully concentrated mind, you must beg forgiveness, offer obeisances, fully worship Lord Shiva. He gets very easily satisfied. So he will definitely bless you and will be able to continue your sacrifice. So in this, he is very merciful. He is the exalted personality. So in this way, Lord Brahma himself is instructing all of them, Indra and Chandra, all the demigods are assembled. So it is very, so that way it is the first point where Raghunathadas Gosvami, this is there are a few Raghunaths in Gaur Leela, but this is Swarup Raghunath, Swarup Damodar Goswami. He talks about in the 11th, 12th verse about Swarup Damodar Goswami also. So that's why he is mentioning here, surrender to Guru, Brajadham, residents of Braja, all the devotees, all the Brahmanas, and the holy name and lordships. This is very important. That means we shouldn't, this devotee is that, this is no, all the devotees. So not have any, because they're all worshipping the Lord, they're all chanting the holy name of the Lord, they're trying to follow the process, which means they are dear to the Lord, they are dear to the spiritual masters. So that's why it's very important to, in this way, to have that love for all devotees. Then second point is mentioned, second verse, engage mind in serving them with love and devotion. Engage the mind in serving all of these personalities with love and devotion, and meditate on Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is mentioning here clearly, meditate on Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and spiritual master, because by his mercy, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, is the most merciful. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gorattushe Namaha. Then further he is mentioning, if you are eager to perform on the platform of Raghunuka Bhakti, this third verse onwards is going into that, then simply desire to remember and worship with the lotus feet of Swarup Damodar Goswami and 6 Goswamis and association of Lord Chaitanya. Even though he is mentioning Ragatmika Bhakti level, but still even for us also it's very important. So from this verse onwards, all the way last few verses is talking about Rupa Goswami. One must take shelter of Rupa Goswami. That's it's very important. So as we can see from Srila Prabhupada's own example, when he is coming to, before coming to US, he is taking completely full shelter. Even Radha Damodar Mandir, he was seeing and crying. So that also Rupa Goswami, here Raghunathadas Goswami is mentioning in the 4th and 5th especially. 4th one is mentioning relinquish mundane, frivolous talk, desire for liberation. So generally means that way means we should avoid talking unnecessary things as much as possible, and frivolous talks, mundane talk and frivolous talks, relinquish that, and desire for liberation. Even for abandon even attachment even to Lord Narayana, because if you want Raja Bhakti, if you want especially the highest Shri Radha Shyam Sundar, the highest form of worship, then you must abandon. So as we can see in this Raja pastimes of Vrindavan, so how the gopis of Vrindavan, even when Lord Krishna transformed himself into Lord Narayan, they said, oh, Lord Narayan, do you know where our Shyam Sundar, our dear Shyam Sundar Krishna is? So in that way, so they offered obeisance, they are so much in awe and reverence. So in that way, so here, Raghunathadas Goswami, because the 6 Goswamis, each of them represent something. Sambandha, Videya, Prayojana. As Sambandha, Sanatana Goswami and Radha Madan Mohan. Then you have Abhideya, Radha Govind ji, Shri Radha Govind ji, which is Shri Rupa Goswami representing. Raghunathadas Goswami representing Prayojana. Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana. That means establishing a relationship with the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. Then practicing on that relationship is Avideya, and then attaining the goal of Krishna Prema, which is Prayojana, which is Raghunathadas Goswami is called Prayojana Acharya. Then we have the other 3 also. Then Jiva Goswami is Tattvavit Acharya. I forget the full word, but he is more of a Tattva Acharya. Then you have Raghunath Bhatta and Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta. You know, I forget the two. They also have, one is Raghunath Bhatta is Bhagavata Vichar Acharya. Bhagavata, because he was beautifully used to sing. He was relishing because he had been instructed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about especially reading so deeply Srimad Bhagavatam from an exalted devotee. Learn from the exalted devotee, under the guidance of exalted devotee. And then when he sent to Vrindavan also he told, study under the guidance of Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswamis. He told, study Srimad Bhagavatam and other. Sorry. Hare Krishna. You have a question, Prabhu? Or a bit late, I think. Yeah, we're almost, I'll finish it up.
सत्राजन देख रहे हैं, देखो सत्राजन चालू है.
Hare Krishna. Can you mute, please? The 4th one, so we'll relinquish mundane and frivolous talk, desire for liberation, and then abandon attachment even to Lord Narayana. 5th verse is talking about cry out piteously and invoke the mercy of the unalloyed devotees of Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna, please mute your line, please. So here Raghunathadas Goswami, very important, because we must cry to the Supreme Lord and Spiritual Master and our founder Acharya and Lord Nityananda Prabhu and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu especially. Invoke the mercy, and even devotees, unalloyed devotees of Lord, because they are very merciful. So in this way, manah Siksa, Raghunathadas Goswami is instructing us how one can fix the mind, one can stable the mind by meditating on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord and his devotees and his associates. So, following in the footsteps of Raghunathadas Goswami's instruction. I'll stop here already, 7:51. So, any questions, comment, reflections, corrections? Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Gandhara Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Prabhuji, anyone has questions or comments? Please share.
I want to understand your most of the preaching you're saying mind, right? But above mind, on the preaching most of the time you said your mind means you are focusing on mind, right?
Correct, because this verse is talking about mind. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Right, Prabhuji. So above mind there is intelligence, right? I
Correct.
will not be able to focus my mind until my intelligence is developed, right? So how do I see that my intelligence improved so that my mind is always focused in that direction?
Correct. So this is the way, as in Bhagavad Gita we see that Indriyani parani ahu indriyebhyam param manah manasastu para buddhe parasastu sa. So above the senses, the director of senses is the mind. Above the senses is the mind. Above the mind is intelligence. Above the intelligence is soul. Above the soul is the super soul. So that's why intelligence must be sharpened by sadhu and shastra and guru. Then the mind. Generally, mind is the senses and sense object. This is above that is the mind. So that's why mind must be controlled. That means yes, but since this verse is talking about the mind, I didn't go too detail about the intelligence. Yes, we must sharpen our intelligence. That's why taking the association of devotees and then hearing, taking prasadam, discussing Krishna Katha, worshipping the Lord, attending the kirtan, dancing in front of the Lord. This is all for His pleasure. Everything, as I was mentioning. Then automatically our intelligence will be sharpened, then automatically our mind will be stable and fixed up. So gradually we will come to this Adav Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Sango, then Bhajana Kriya, then Anartha Nivrutti, then Nishtha. Will come to the fixed up Nishtha stage. Then Ruchi, will develop taste for the holy name. So more and more we increase this process, what Srila Prabhupada has given, then gradually it takes time. We should be patient and tolerant, as we were discussing. Pratiksha, Pariksha and Samiksha, that must be there. If you are not tolerant, if you are not patient enough, then it's very difficult. Because nothing is going to happen. You can say, I want to send package today itself. Can you receive? No. Same day, it's very difficult. It's not possible. Maybe if it is next city or something, yes, we may be able to do. But if it is a long distance, then you need to wait. You need to be patient. So especially this is a process of spiritual. So many lifetimes we wasted. Then one lifetime, we don't want to follow the process, but we want to jump immediately. So how come I'm not able to progress? But then we have to see, are we following Prabhupada's process? Are we listening? Are we reading Prabhupada's books? How much scrutinizingly reading or not? With rapt attention or not? So all these things we must check. Yes, if you have questions, definitely you can ask. Then definitely seek guidance from devotees. Then definitely whatever we know, whatever they know, they will try to give you the guidance or share. So because we are all collectively trying to understand and progress and help each other. Is that clear, Bimal Prabhu?
Yeah, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhuji. It's very clear.
Hare Krishna. Any other ones? Any other comments, questions, corrections? Yeah, so especially tomorrow is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's disappearance day, fasting to noon, very, very important. We also talked about this because in this stage, in the fifth stage, Niruda stage, also it is mentioned there are two steps are there, two kind of, or the fourth stage, Ekagra, is Sampragnata Samadhi, and the fifth one, Niruda stage, is Asampragnata Samadhi. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about in great detail. So that means Sampragnata, some Ekagra stage, still there may be a little bit fluctuation, there may be some thoughts may come. But Niruda stage means complete full focus, Asampragnata. No. Even if there are anything, then nothing will deviate, nothing will divert us. Mind is fully fixed up, mind and intelligence fully fixed up. So no false falsities there, no false ego, fully understanding and acting on that relationship, not just theoretically but practically. He is operating on that vijnana. So practical realization. Only when we perform bhakti with love and devotion, then only we will be coming to that vijnana stage. That means practical realization. We are getting the revelations within the heart by through Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda, through Rupa Goswami and Prabhupada and the spiritual master. That will be revealed what each verse is talking about, what he wants us to do, what he doesn't want us to do. The process of 6 steps of surrender will be revealed. Whatever we may do, small things we may buy, we may new ventures, new job, new things we may buy. So we'll be guided what to do and what not to do, which way to go, which way not to go. So then when we come to that stage of Vijnan, otherwise the mind, we are going by the mind's direction, we are not going by the actual Lord Krishna's direction. So the Krishna consciousness Prabhupada established, it means executing the will of the Supreme Lord, executing the will of the spiritual master. That means full revelation. Only when that will happen, when it is in full surrender. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is telling that Atyanta Durlava Karibare Dhane. What is it? Shikaya Saranagat Bhakatera Prana. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give this very difficult Krishna Prema by simple process of chanting the holy name. Atyanta Durlava Karibare. He came to give. So Shikaya Saranagati. He has taught how to surrender, come to the process by simple steps of chanting the holy name of the Lord in the association of devotees, feasting, dancing, chanting. So that's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur is 7th Goswami. So we must pray sincerely. We must try to fast. If you are not diabetic, you can do some kind of fasting. Prabhupada himself also used to take most of the time fruits, fruit juice like that. If you are diabetic, you can take as well. No, we are not so concerned about rules and regulations. We are more into about the loving devotion, developing attachment to the spiritual master and parampara. So that is most important than rules. And yes, that doesn't mean that we give up rules and do whatever we like. No, that also is not possible. But we have to consider these facts, why the rules are given. So for us to progress. So yeah.